Absolute Batman. If you think you know Batman, the Absolute Universe rips that comfort right out of your hands. Darkseid rigs a world where heroes start on hard mode, and Bruce Wayne is no billionaire heir. He's a kid from Crime Alley with a social worker mom, a school teacher dad, and a pack of friends who, in another life, would have been his enemies. Waylon, Ozzy, Harvey, Eddie, and Selina. No mansions, no trust funds, just cramped rooms, bad streetlights, and a city that eats hope for breakfast. The day he wins a young engineers contest at the Gotham Zoo, aka the happiest morning of his life, turns into a massacre by sundown. Thomas Wayne dies saving a class of 5th graders, and Bruce learns the first, ugliest Gotham lesson. Sometimes the Bat House is a tomb, and the only way out is through the swarm. Selina drags him back from the edge. Her pitch is simple: turn the fear into fuel. Bruce listens. He stops trying to build a legend and starts building skills. Sparring with Waylon, studying with Eddie, running with Ozzy to map the underworld from the inside, and sealing rooftops with Selina, until love and larceny split them apart. He drops out to learn crime, returns to a school, then fakes a sports injury to stockpile knowledge such as engineering, civics, and psychology. If classic Bruce knows Gotham, this one wires it. His first shot at vigilantism is a nightmare by design. The vampire bat look meant to terrify the thin thieves into submission. It almost works, then he raises a gun. The moment freezes, and his dad's lesson about the bridge clicks. You don't build for the myth, you build for the people. Bruce holsters the monster, eats the pain, and gets out. The suits goes in the trash, and the gun goes with it. He recalibrates from fear theater to systems warfare, because killing one gang leader is nothing when the Maroni-Falcone pipeline keeps shipping guns and dope up the coast. Then he hijacks the Orange Blossom special in produced trucks, busts crews, follows money trails, and learns the truth that really breaks new Batman in. You don't topple dynasties a rooftop at a time. So he leaves, hunts for the core of the bat, the mission, not the mask, and done the hardest thing he can imagine. Sits across from Joe Chill in Blackgate and listens. Not to forgive, but to understand the ecosystem that minted a gunman and buried a father. Now Bruce becomes a civil engineer and turns half-finished skyscrapers into sky caves, seeds buildings with bugs and booby traps, and hides a tank-sized Batmobile in an elevator shaft like it's just another maintenance bay. He designs a leaner suit, a bat axe, and throwing blades. He carves dozens of microcaves around Gotham, so there's always an exit, always a resupply, always a way to disappear. This Batman doesn't rely on Wayne Welch. He relies on permits, blueprints, and blind spots he created himself. And that's the point. Absolute Batman isn't a gothic myth glaring from a gargoyle. He's a working-class insurgent who retools a hostile city into his operating system. He wins by being smarter, closer, meaner. The kind of hero you get when the universe is rigged against you and you build the solution anyway. Absolute Bane. Let's start with the island that made him. Santa Prisca is a beautiful prison, resource-rich, colonized, liberated, and then colonized again for over a century. Bane is born into that cycle on a battlefield, raised in the rebel militia Cielos Libres led by his father, whose father led it before him. Their banner is a white, schedule on black, a promise that one day the country will fly free. Young Bane proves gifted at war and strategy, even seizing the capital for 3 days, long enough to learn how quickly outside powers can crush a local victory. The survivors are dumped in Piana Duro, a sea-lashed hill off the coast. Every night the cells flood, forcing men to hang from roosted bars and fight for air. He eats rats, plucks parasites from his skin, and kills to keep his father alive as other prisoners blame the rebel leader for their misery. 11 years of that carves a new animal out of the boy. In the tide turns, Bane leads a breakout using shivs and tools fashioned from the sea creatures washed into their cages, storms the docks, and seals the boats. On the beach there's no army waiting, just a man in white, the Joker of the Absolute Universe. He knows Bane's real name. He also knows history. Every time Santa Prisca is taken by force, foreign hands return to take it back. His offer is simple and poisonous. He will make Santa Prisca permanently independent and prosperous if Bane becomes his right hand. As a test, Joker demands the one thing Bane still has: his father. Then Bane breaks him in a beer hug, and the mission begins. Joker keeps his word, and so does Bane. The island transforms. There's roads, schools, clinics, security, no foreign bases, no corporate strip mining. Bane becomes the enforcer of a global shadow empire. To match the job, he submits to Venom, a regimen of surgeries and chemical baths that rewire his nervous system and harden his body into something past human. The changes stick. In the field, he still carries booster doses for short, brutal surges. Between missions, he flies home, marries, has children, and kneels at his father's grave. Over the years, Bane brings promising fighters to the Joker's lab to replicate the process. Most die. A few live but can't take the full suit he survived. Still, the program spits out lethal seconds, names like Deathstroke and KG Beast, soldiers who can win a war zone but still stand in Bane's shadow. He is not just stronger, he is clearer. He believes peace is a structure you enforce, not a prize you win. That's absolute Bane in a nutshell. Not a thug chasing adrenaline, but a nation builder in a monster's body, forged by ties and cages, who traded the romance of rebellion for the match of outcomes. He breaks what needs breaking, pays in blood when the ledger demands it, and never forgets the nightmare hidden in the White Bird's back. To the world, he's the Joker's unstoppable fist. To Santa Prisca, he's the reason the sun rises without gunfire. Absolute Superman. On Krypton, Kal-El is born to the Labor Guild, the lowest rung in a rigid caste system policed by the Science League's cloistered clerics. His parents, Jor-El, the mining engineer, and Lara, the farmhand/mechanic, are brilliant but blacklisted for thinking differently. They wear that stigma-like armor until their son a proud truth. The Labor Guild are the people of steel, the last on Krypton who still build and grow with their hands. Kal grows up in the Redlands, the rural fringe outside the glittering cities, shy, average by every metric, happy wrenching on tools and napping with crypto, then memorizing sterile lessons from the sales knowledge feed. He writes his own assignments and seems headed for an ordinary life. He's fine with that. Jor-El's work delivers the first crack in that ordinary life. A tunnel collapse, magmoles in the dark, a hard choice that leaves creatures dead so miners can live. Jor-El tells Kal that the right thing is often a bedtime story people tell themselves after a necessary cruelty. What matters is never forgetting what cruelty is, so it doesn't become normal. Then the planet itself starts whispering the same lesson. Dead wildlife exhaling green vapor, boiling seas, the gold volcano gone dry. Officials dismiss it as gas leaks, but Lara's workshop hums late into the night and Jor-El drags home impossible amounts of sunstone. Kal realizes his parents are preparing for a catastrophe no one up top will admit. On a class trip to Kandor, the mask comes all the way off. Kal posts a report about Redland's disasters, then watches it get wiped and his device scrubbed. In the halls of High Wisdom, he turns a corner and sees Jor-El, dragged away by Law Guild officers. Lara suits up with a lava gun and storms the precinct to get him back while Kal hacks a terminal and uncovers the rot. The clerics have built a secret escape fleet for the elite, leaving the rest of Krypton to die. Kal blasts the truth across the Luminarium. In one instant, a planet learns what its rulers really think of it. Back at the farm, the elves reveal their counterplan. They weren't going to fire their child into the void alone. They've built a community ship, room for family and for Redland's neighbors who believed. The Law Guild responds with a death sentence and shock troopers. The elves fight clear, rally friends in the Raw Mountains, and prepare to launch as the world tears itself apart. Kal pockets a handful of soil and almost vanishes into a fresh chasm before Crypto holds him back. Sol, the AI in Lara's life suit, seals a protective shell around Kal as the ship bounces from the sky and city launches burn in right below. A rogue shard of Krypton rips the community ship to pieces. Lara's design fails safe. Each suit cocoons into a personal rocket and scatters. Kal glimpses Crypto in one, his parents in another, and then watches every other signal snuff out in the asteroid storm. Alone, he calls into an empty channel until the silence answers back. For 17 months and 14 days, he and Sol cross lightless gulfs hunting a world that can take a boy who lost everything. 9 million light years from home, Kal orders Sol to fly them into a yellow star. The AI refuses and flags a third planet in the system as viable. The rocket blows into a field outside Smallville, Kansas. Jonathan and Martha Kent reach a burning crater to find a terrified boy speaking a language they don't know. They carry him inside. Weeks blur by as Kal, suffering from fevers and seizures, and when it finally breaks, he sprints through a farmhouse wall and doesn't stop until the witch tells him he's safe. The sunset looks like the Redlands. He goes back. They can't feed him, clothe him, and treat him like the son they never had long before they can understand a word he says. When Saw reboots, it overlays English in Kal's mind. He introduces himself. He lifts, carries, fixes fence posts, the little heroic acts that matter on a farm. And that's the hinge of the Superman. The powers are new, but the ethic isn't. That's the origins of Absolute Superman, and the rest is history. Absolute Wonder Woman. First, wipe the classic postcard from your mind. No Paradise Island, no Bronze Age training montage. In this universe, the gods stack the deck. When the Amazons offend Olympus, Zeus rips infant Diana from the queen, outlaws the very word Amazon, and locks her sisters away for eternity. He has Apollo ferry the baby to the wild Isle of Hell, a blasted rock in the underworld where the sorceress Circe is herself imprisoned. Apollo names Circe the Warden, but pointedly doesn't tell her to keep the child alive. Circe almost lets nature take its course until the baby casually flings a snack across the beach. Impressed and a little terrified, Circe takes her in. That's Diana's cradle. Growing up in hell doesn't break Diana, it sharpens her. Monsters, demons, and lost souls come to kill the child. She beats them, tames them, or befriends them, until Circe's cave becomes a home. Circe, who begins as a reluctant guard, becomes a mother, padding the stone den with blankets, books, and little comforts. The island itself bends under their care. What started as a death trap becomes the safest place in hell. Yet Diana senses a missing word, something powerful she can't say, because Zeus forbids it. Behind the scenes, the goddesses have their own counterplot. They want Diana to bend the arc of the universe toward justice, and Hecate tells Circe that the day will come when Diana must leave to save the world. Then Diana's dreams become classrooms. Artemis visits a huntress mentor, Persephone tends a tiny pomegranate tree and gives Diana a single seed, promising it will always let her return to the underworld 1 month each year. Circe teaches magic and morality through stories, including The Lady of the Tiger, a cruel parable that ends mid-choice. The unfinished ending needles Diana for years. It's the seed of her own ethos. When the system forces impossible choices, make a third Thor. Before she can champion humanity, she has to reckon with their first ally, Prometheus. On Mount Prometheus, she can't free the Titan, but she loosens his chains and convinces the eagles to relent. In solitary, Prometheus gives his blood so Circe can forge weapons strong enough to cut gods and beasts alike, and he raises Pegasus from death to carry Diana. She isn't a tiara and lasso makeover, it's a mythic toolkit assembled in defiance of Olympus, built on the idea that justice sometimes means breaking what gods declare fate. Then the living world literally washes ashore. Steve Trevor, a USAF officer, wrecks on the Wild Isle and is promptly dragged under by a hydra. Diana dives, kills, saves, and drags him back to the cave. He wakes in hell convinced he doesn't belong there. Diana dryly notes, many souls don't, they simply end up where power shoves them. She finds a ritual that can send Steve home, but there's a catch. It demands a great sacrifice. Circe begs her not to do it. Diana decides this is her test, the first mission of the savior she's been told she'll become. That night, while Steve sleeps and Circe weeps, Diana cuts off her right arm to fuel the spell. The ritual works. Steve is sent back to Earth, and Circe forges a magic prosthetic to replace what Diana gave up. And that choice defines this Wonder Woman. Not a princess blessed by a paradise, but a woman who pays the price up front for someone else's tomorrow. She leaves hell with a Pegasus, god-blooded weapons, a month-a-year passport to the underworld, and a mission written between the lines of every story she was denied. Absolute Green Lantern. Jo isn't a space cop chosen by a cosmic battery. She's a small-town ex-deputy from Evergreen, Nevada, who left home from Coast City, married federal agent Cameron Chase, watched the marriage fall apart, and eventually moved back. The past comes with her, especially the soul-gold wedding ring Chase demanded back, and Jo refused to return. Back in Evergreen, Sheriff Guy Gardner asked her to rejoin the department. She declined, still sitting on unresolved history with him and keeping quiet about Coast City. She's not looking for heroics, just a quiet reset. Quiet ends at lunch with old friends Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan. A translucent green dome slams down over Evergreen like a lab jar. A biker hits the barrier at full speed and dies on impact. Calls don't go through. Passers-by outside the dome don't even register that anything's wrong. When Jo looks up, she sees a starship shaped like a giant lantern and at its core, a four-armed alien. It descends, announces himself as Abinsor, claims to exist at the green level of light, and commands everyone to be without fear. Guy steps up as sheriff. Abinsor answers by obliterating him. When the deputies shoot, he shields the bullets, decapitates Rita, and severs Ron's hand. Jo and John try to save Ron. Hal points a gun. Abinsor knows Hal's name without an intro and drifts back to his ship. That night, John brings a clue. A gold earring from the dead biker somehow passed through the dome. They test the field, and before they can map an escape, Abinsor descends and judges John, vaporizing him as John stands calm, fearless, and very much not saved in any normal meaning of the word. And that's when Jo sees the pattern. This isn't an invasion, it's a trial with rules no human understands. Over 3 days, Evergreen's people vanish, leaving only Joe, Hal, and diner owner Todd Rice. They assume the worst and decide to kill Abensor. Joe volunteers to draw him out, while Hal lines up a shot with gold-painted bullets. Face to face, Joe demands answers. Abensor admits he killed Rita, but insists no other existence ended. Guy, John, the missing townsfolk, all he says still exists in the Omega Alpha, a second stage. Their judgment continues. He talks in riddles about initiates and warns Joe to be with fear, to fear the weapons of Card. It's the first time he flips his mantra, and Joe catches it. Fear isn't weakness here, it's an instruction. Then the accident that changes her life. Abensor starts to phase into energy to leave. Joe reaches out without thinking. Her solid gold wedding ring touches his light. There's a surge of visions, alien worlds, and the green energy jumps from Abensor into Joe. He collapses. Above them, the Green Lantern ship loses integrity and falls onto Evergreen. In the chaos, Joe vanishes skyward on instinct, riding raw power she never asked for and doesn't understand. And when she finally steadies herself, she's alone in the desert. No bearings, no training, nothing but a gold band and a charge that used to belong to a god. That's Joe's origin in this world. A ring she wouldn't give back becomes the key that breaks a prison and inadvertently crowns her with power. She isn't inducted into a corpse, she's thrust into a mystery. A town in stasis somewhere called OA, a dead sheriff, and a dead friend who may not be dead at all, an alien judge who says, be with fear, and the enemies she's never heard of, already moving pieces, called the weapons of Card. Absolute Flash. Wally West here is the first speedster ever. He grows up as an army brat, always moving, never staying long enough to keep friends. His anchor is his mom, who helps him manage panic and sleepless nights. When she dies, Wally falls inward. By 15, he's stuck at Fort Fox, where his dad, Rudy West, runs a top-secret program called Project Olympus. Wally acts out by wandering past curfew, bored and buzzing with a kind of restlessness he can't name. One adult actually sees him, Barry Allen, a scientist on Olympus. Barry recognizes potential and sneaks Wally into a lab, offering him part-time work and a lifeline. Rudy shuts it down and forbids Wally from ever speaking to Barry again. Wally says Barry's the only one who cares, slams the door, and heads straight to the lab. Right as Barry powers up an experimental machine, there's a blinding surge. Barry shouts run, but it's too late. The device detonates in red lightning, tearing Wally into crackling streamers of energy and then slamming him back together. Wally then bolts from the base at impossible speed, dragging Barry in the wake of his new power. The air peels at Barry's skin, the speed cooks him alive. They stop deep in the Moave and Barry, somehow still breathing, begs Wally to help and dies. Wally hides the body in a cave. Rudy activates a Black Ops retrieval team called the Rogues to bring his son in. They run him down with ice guns, force bubble traps, and rocket boots. Every time Wally's anxiety spikes, his power spasms. He time slips back to the moment of the accident, then snaps forward to the desert again, like his fear is a switch on reality itself. In one burst, he stumbles into a swirling vortex where he sees his whole life at once, and two futures, one a costumed hero, the other a howling energy monster. Wally staggers in an isolated farm and crashes in the barn. The Rogues send their strangest asset, Grodd, a generically engineered telepathic monkey. Grodd finds Wally, reaches out a finger, and Wally, curious despite himself, touches back. That psychic contact hits like a tidal wave. Two childhoods, two losses, Wally's mom wasting away, Grodd's mother killed before he's taken by hunters. Grodd switches sides on the spot, telling Wally, mind to mind, that they are the same and he doesn't have to be alone. The Rogues storm the barn, Wally's fear spikes, the lightning starts to spin out, Grodd tucks him down, steadies his breathing, and puts most of the squad to sleep with a psychic push. For once, Wally doesn't run. He sprints into the danger, leaps, and cold cooks Harkness mid-air. He and Grodd race back to the cave where Wally hid Barry's body. There, Wally takes the containment suit Barry's wore during the experiment and pulls it on as a costume. He knows the old life is gone. He says goodbye to Barry, then turns to the only friend who understands the noise in his head. That's the birth of Absolute Flash, a scared kid with no speed force to lean on. No teacher to explain time vortices or lightning moods, just raw velocity, a trauma he has to own, and a partner who steadies the signal when the panic gets loud. Wally isn't running from what happened anymore. He's running towards it, learning how to breathe at max speeds, how to keep the lightning from eating him alive, and how to choose the future where he's a hero, not a storm. Absolute Joker. In this universe, Joker starts with the advantages Bruce had on Earth Zero: obscene wealth, global mobility, lifetime training. The result: a Spectre in a three-piece suit who never laughs, never sleeps, and treats cities like chessboards. He is one of the 30 richest men on Earth and moves under aliases. He's a predator who learned from Henry Descartes and the League of Assassins, then killed the teachers once he'd memorized the lesson. His masterstroke is the island of Santa Prisca. The rebel survivors crawl out of Peñaduro, ready to start a doomed revolution, and Joker is already on the beach, waiting for Bane. He offers strategy. Force failed before and will fail again because empires want what Santa Prisca has. The only path to permanent freedom is money, leverage, and invisible protection. Bane understands that the price is blood. Joker orders Bane to kill his father, and Bane complies. In one conversation, Joker flips a nation's destiny and recruits the most dangerous field commander on the planet. From there, Joker builds a private empire. Bane becomes the lead enforcer, running black ops, terror strikes, and surgical assassinations that redraw maps without signature. Joker bankrolls Santa Prisca into a stable, modern state with new money, closed borders, zero outside meddling. In the labs he tries to reproduce Bane. Most subjects die. A handful survive as downgraded assets like Deathstroke and KG Beast. Publicly he is the CEO face of JQ Holdings, the money behind the arcs. Quietly he's a switchboard operator for a global network of mercs, zealots, and kingpins who owe him favors or fear his ledger. When Gotham needs to be softened, he doesn't parachute in with laughing gas, he franchises the apocalypse. Black Mask and the party animals flood the streets with masks, bounties, and weapons until the city tears itself open. Batman survives that stress test, so Joker escalates. He sent Bane. That's the absolute Joker in a sentence. No speeches, no monologues. Just a calm directive that turns into broken ribs and burned skylines. Where classic Joker is theatrical, this one is procedural. He doesn't want to humiliate Gotham, he wants to own the conditions that make Gotham inevitable, and he invests accordingly. And the creepiest part, he never laughs. Not once. The nickname is a threat, not a bit. Joker arrives here with Bruce's toolset and none of his conscience. Justice League. In 1951, Hawkman appeared in front of the House of Un-American Activities Committee, cool as ice, basically volunteering to sell out un-American heroes. That one page tells you everything about this universe. Power picks a side, and it isn't the capes. Smash cut to now, where Oliver Queen, yes there's an absolute Green Arrow, decides he's done being a rich guy on the sidelines. He is chasing a monster in a tailored suit, Jabal Slade, an Epstein-coded predator who's bought cops and courts alike. Ollie's on the phone with Roy Harper, vowing to burn this rot out of the system. On the other side of town, the money talks back. Hector Hammond treats Oliver like a midlife crisis with a bow. Get him to a table, cut a check, problem solved. He struts into a no electronics back room, and the guest list is a who's who of this universe's power brokers: Ra's al Ghul, Veronica Cale, Dr. Thon, the Joker, and more. First takeaway: these people don't form teams, they consolidate markets, and they are here to lock down the meta-human arms race that's erupting across the globe. Veronica lays out the thesis with receipts. She walks them through the old Mystery Man era and shows how the status quo always found a way to neutralize outliers, but now the anomalies aren't contained. Wonder Woman arrives from hell and takes command of a battlefield like a born general. A man in Brazil melts tanks with his eyes, while a peacemaker ignores orders to write poetry about it. A bat in Gotham rewires the city bones and refuses the envelope of money. A green dome in Evergreen flips reality on its head, and a Ford Fox experiment births a speed problem you can't cuff. The danger isn't what they can do, Veronica says, it's what they can inspire. Cops hesitate, soldiers listen to civilians, protocols wobble, and order cracks, and then the room's temperature drops. Hawkman walks in carrying Oliver Queen's corpse, skull caved in. That's the sales pitch. Ross doesn't say please, he says. This is how we solve problems. No meetings, no months, no jokes. It's a demonstration. Power can make the sand disappear. Money can make the paperwork vanish. You want access to assets next time? One call. Which is when the Joker stands. He unveils data from a private accelerator, an omega particle. He pitches a poisonous cosmology. Moral gravity is real. The universe bends toward order. The rich get richer because that's how reality is wired. Those who have are meant to have. People who fight that, they are not revolutionaries. They are sore losers. Call it justice when the strong keep the world tidy. Call it injustice when upstarts try to rewrite the script. We are not friends, he says. We can be in league. Raise a glass to an ordered world, to our Justice League. And the twist lands. In the Absolute Universe, the Justice League is the villain council. Outside that room, other monsters move. Brainiac is eavesdropping through Mirror Master's trickery, charging the room's egos like with their fronts, Ross vs. Hammond, Thawne vs. Scale, and the man who doesn't joke, Dead Center. He wants a counterweight, one more piece to complete their league. And about the final page hook, a serene man sipping tea at sunset answers the phone. This is Lex Luthor. The suggestion is clear. Whether Lex joins or opposes, the game just scaled up. The heroes aren't a team yet. They are scattered sparks. The league, this anti-league, already meets, funds, and kills. So not a god assembling to save the day, but supervillains formalizing control while the age of heroes ignites. It reframes every solo book as a provocation to order. Diana taking command, Clark inspiring disobedience, Bruce refusing a payoff, Speed and Willpower breaking containment. The question isn't when do the heroes team up, it's how do you build a Justice League when the brand is already taken by the enemy.